Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. As promised, we're going to talk about York now. Plenty to get excited about this week, namely the Dante, which is on Thursday. Can't wait for that. But it starts on Wednesday. We've got the Clipper Logistics, nice grade 2 to get us started. Invincible Army Jimmy, he looked a sort of bit of an in and out sprinter last year, but he looked really good in his comeback, and maybe this season he can make his mark.
Yeah, he could do. My one concern about him will be the drying ground on Wednesday. I mean, it does look with the forecast as if we really aren't going to get any rain at all this week. He'd probably prefer a little bit of cut in the ground. I have to say, I really didn't like many at the head of the market in this race. Brando's got a wretched record at this meeting. Limato really doesn't tend to come right until later on in the summer. So I've just had a look at some of the course and distance winners really and see which ones might improve.
Steal my thunder here. I'm really keen on one, but go for it.
Well, my one is Major Jumbo.
Yes, and Mark.
Oh, brilliant.
Big fan. Take it away.
I mean, he's going in the right direction. As I said, he's a course and distance winner. Got form on the Naismar, and he stepped up well into group company last time when third in the Palace House. His best form tends to be over 6 furlongs. So if he can move forward from that, yeah, he's an each way contender.
Yeah, it was a good run behind Invincible Army first time out as well. Binners, I think you were 14-1 Major Jumbo, weren't you?
Yeah, Major Jumbo's in there at 14-1.
Very
quite
nice
right, Maddie. Very nice price, and no doubt it will contract. Invincible Army at 2-1, Maddie. Then Brando 4-1 with Limato, 11-2 Yafta, 7 projection, and it's 14 bar including your Major Jumbo.
How do we sum up these sprinters, Robbie?
A modest bunch. Well, that's a bit harsh on Brando and Limato, really, isn't it? But Brando's already
had their best days, though.
Yeah, Brando's a bit disappointed he didn't win the Abundant Stakes. He won it the last 2 years, and I thought he'd hack up in that. He is the classiest horse in the race, and he was probably the one I thought was slightly overpriced of the market principles, but quite a compelling case made about Major Jumbo. He had Sergei Prokofiev in behind in that Palace House as well, and that's a horse I absolutely love as a sprinter this season. I'll probably just about stick to Brando. He is 7. There's a doubt if he's maybe regressing, but I'll be certainly looking to take on Invincible Army at the top of the betting.
Okay, let's move on to the Musadora then. Binners, take away the betting for this one. I presume Sparkle Roll is towards the head of your market.
Yep, Sparkle Roll at the head, 5-2 Maddie, 7-2 Sankia, 9-2 Francolina, 13-2 Nausea, 8-1 Entitle, and it's 9-1 the rest.
Yeah, I've got my eye firmly on Sea of Faith, who finished behind Sparkle Roll at Sandown last time, as are, I'm sure, many others, Jimmy. But I know Asheen Murphy thinks a lot of this grey filly, and she looked good last time.
Well, she's certainly a nice-looking filly. King Power didn't really advertise the form, did she, at Lingfield? She was
not.
Well stuffed. She probably didn't like the ground that much, but she was well beaten. If you take it literally, you think Sparkle Roll's going to win this, then what do you think of Annapurna? I think she might be. I think she might be a bit short. Therefore, I'm going to look at one of the more exposed types because none of the other sexier types really do it for me. Swift Rose had some good form in Maidan against the Colts, and Sai Binster is in really good form at the moment. So she'll like the ground. She is a bit exposed, as I said, but with a lot of the unexposed types not really doing it for me, I'll take a chance on her.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you to an extent. There seems to have been a lot of noise about this Francolina, who is a non-runner on Lingfield, so it'd be interesting.
She's got a beautiful pedigree and has been well talked up. I mean, she's got a lot to find.
She looked a bit slow on debut to me.
Well, she's got to step up hugely from that.
Yeah,
hugely.
Indeed. Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, it'd probably be a watching brief for me. I was just interested to see how Entitled gets on a half-sister to Enable.
Yes.
Which is a fine pedigree. I'll be sitting it out. It'll be certainly, we'll learn something. It'll have a dramatic impact on the Oaks market, I'm sure. But one to enjoy with the view to the future.
Okay, and on Thursday, the Middleton takes us before the Dante. Will it happen for Andrew Lloyd Webber? Will he have a really nice double there with Larty Dar before he looks forward to Too Darn Hot in another Derby trial? This filly, she's been fragile, as is the case with a lot of her family, but she's got ability, Jimmy.
Oh, she's got loads of ability, and she was very impressive in the Galtras at this course last season before going on to finish second in the St Ledger. against the boys. So no, I mean she's very classy indeed. I mean if she's at her best, she'll win this. First time out though, and she's dropping back in trip. So there is a chance that she could be vulnerable. I'm gonna if there are enough runners, I think to finish in the first two. Nialetti, last time I saw was around about the 6-1 mark. I think that's too big. I thought she ran a cracking race in the Dahlia Stakes first time out. Clearly not handling the track at all. So I'm expecting improvement. And we know she gets this trip because she was narrowly beaten in a Group 1 in Italy over this distance. So I can see her running really well and possibly shaking up the favourite.
Indeed, interesting. Binners, I mean, I'm sure Latidar's bound to be very popular. She's got the right connections, hasn't she?
Yeah, interestingly, I was going to come up with Nialetti. I thought 6-1 was big as long as there's two to be placed. But yeah, Latidar 2-1 on. Rawdar 5-1, Nialetti 6-1, Mississippi 13-2, Sun Maiden 10-1, and it's 25-1 Queen of Time.
Can you see her be beaten?
Yeah, the opposition seems quite weak to me. This should be a formality for Latidar. Third to Magical at Ascot, didn't stay the 1 mile 6 probably in the ledger behind Kew Gardens.
She looked to be sticking on all right, I think.
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay, fair enough.
Sure myself, but yeah, 1 mile 4 would be an ideal trip, I'd say.
Rest of the season,
should have too much
far
class.
can she go?
Yeah, she looks a Group 1 winner for sure later in the season. Something target serve. She'll be going for the Yorkshire Oaks again, I'm sure. I'd like to think that she'll be darning at the top table once more.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see some more of her. That would be for sure. The same applies to Too Darn Hot, unbeaten champion juvenile in the Dante. First off, Binners, what's the market been like? Has there been much confidence behind him on his seasonal reappearance?
Well, it hasn't really hotted up yet, Maddie. I guess we're going to wait and see the final decks. But, you know, looking at the betting now, it really is a cracking heat. Too Darn Hot at 7-4 favourite. Japan 3-1. Aidan O'Brien cleaning up in all the trials. 9-2 Surfman. That one has been really warm, Maddie. He was 8-1 a couple of days into 9-2 now on the back of a nice gallop in Newmarket, apparently. Telecaster for Huey Morrison 11-2. 6-1 Line of Duty, who's a good horse, as you guys will just come to explain, and it's 16-1 bar.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Telecaster, but no doubt he's got to improve to win this. Jimmy, let's start off with Too Darn Hot. You think this trip will be a worry for any reason?
No, I've always expected him to stay further than a mile, so I would be surprised if he doesn't get this distance. Last season he was the best colt around, no question about that. He was fantastic.
On a par with Frankel, some were saying.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have gone that far, but I mean he was very good. If ever a time he's going to be vulnerable, this could be the day. I mean, he was meant to run a month ago, wasn't he, in the Greenham?
Yeah.
He had to miss that into this splint bone problem, and because of time off, he had to miss the Guineas as well. So he's coming into this on the back of a setback. It's quite a hot race. He's stepping up 3 furlongs in trip.
So too is Japan as well.
Yeah.
He's not had a good prep.
No, he hasn't had a good prep either. But I'm going to come on to Aidan O'Brien's pair in this race because we were talking about what tremendous form he's been in. And I think he's had 8 horses in the last week running Derby trials. I don't think there's been a horse from another yard that's beaten any of them. He had the first 2 in the Vars. First 2 in the D.
Wow.
Anthony Van Dyke won the Lingfield Derby trial, and then he had the first 3 home in the Darren stand. So extraordinary. Unbeatable he's been in the last week. So I think, therefore, with him being in such good form, you've got to be interested in Japan. But I mean, call me mad, but I think the horse who's a huge price in this is Western Australia, who's arguably got a better piece of form in the book than Japan when he was a length third to Magna Grecia and the Vertex Futurity. Now, there are 2 negatives to him. I mean, one is he might be setting the pace here, but I'm not too concerned about that. Aidan O'Brien's horses can make all. We saw that with Hermosa in the 1,000 guineas, and Western Australia himself made the pace in the Futurity and ran very well. I mean, the other problem is, of course, he didn't run well first time up in the field and
could have
at
needed
Newmarket.
It badly, couldn't he?
Well, a lot of Aidan O'Brien's horses do in April, and they improve pounds for their next run. So, I mean, what price have you got him at, Binners? I mean, he's outside of the field, isn't he?
Well, yeah, we've got him as 33-1, Jim, and now you've made such a good case for him. I'm just looking at your page on the website. Top speed and Racing Post rating. He's actually above Japan.
There we go. You have made a really convincing case for him there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be listening to this and still thinking he's completely mad. What's he talking
I
about?
don't think so. What do you think, Robbie?
If I'm not mistaken, though, wasn't he beating Dundalk in March, though?
I mean, he's been beaten quite a few times, Robbie. I think he's only won once, but he has got some very good pieces of form. I think he was also fourth to Persian King in the Autumn Stakes at Newmarket. I'm not sure he handles that track that well anyway. So I think he's too big, with particularly with that piece of form in the Futurity. I think 33 to 1's a price which is far too big for a yard that is absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, Robbie,
Agreed, that is too big a price.
let's bring Line of Duty into it. What do you make of him? Breeders' Cup winner. He's not had any problems like the rest of them, by all accounts.
No, has he? The first run back, wasn't it? He wasn't the one I came down on, though. Too darn hot. It wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility he doesn't even turn up at the last minute as well. I think that's something to bear in mind.
Yeah.
Japan, slightly overhyped, perhaps.
He was never Aidan O'Brien's first string last year, was he?
Not last year, no, but over the winter it's been all Japan this.
He's been the talking horse in the winter, isn't
Japan that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You have to take note of that, but I came down on Telecaster actually for Hugh Morrison. I mean, obviously it's this wonderful stat about O'Brien absolutely mopping up in the trials, even with the place horses is a concern. But he has had his form franked behind Bangkok at Doncaster, absolutely hacked up by 9 lengths at Windsor, looks an absolute monster. And at the prices, he'd be the way I'm looking.
Yeah, a couple of horses have come out of that Windsor run and won as well. One at Chester, I think, in the week. So, yeah, I know Hugh Morrison said he's the best middle distance colt he's ever trained. I'm not sure how many middle distance colts he's had on his hands, but it's a big confidence boost if you like him. Anyway, let's move on to the Yorkshire Cup, which is on Friday, and the return of Stradivarius. Jimmy, could he be vulnerable in any way this season?
This season, yeah, he could be. There are quite a few occasions when I was against him last season, and actually in the race at Ascot, the Long Distance Cup, I thought he might have been slightly lucky to actually win that. I was on Thomas Hobson that day, who didn't get the run of the race like Stradivarius did. Put it that way. I think he'll win this because even with the penalty, I mean, he's 2 from 2 at York. I can't see amongst the contenders what's really going to threaten him.
Later on in the season, do you think he could be?
Later on in the season, yeah. I mean, quite possibly. I mean, he was consistent last year, consistently good. He wasn't dazzling. Maybe this was probably the best performance.
Was he?
This was probably the best performance last season when he was won first time out here in the Yorkshire Cup. But no, I think he'll struggle to repeat what he did last season. I mean, he's a fantastically admirable horse, just deadly consistent, keeps putting up the same performance time after time, but he's not winning by much. The only horse who I thought might trouble in here was possibly DXB, but he ran very badly at York when he was well fancied a couple of years ago. I'm not certain how much he likes his track on that evidence.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to be sticking with Stradivarius.
Are you quite as pessimistic?
Yeah, he's gone to the well a lot, hasn't he, Stradivarius?
Just failed to really sort of wow me, but I guess every horse can't do that.
Some horses don't, yeah. I mean, you have a soft spot for plenty of horses that might surprise
people.
people.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like a bit of a dig, doesn't it? Well, it wasn't intended to be. The horse which interested me was Ispalini for Charlie Appleby. Kept fit over the winter in Dubai, keeps improving. Buick's jocked up. I just want to be taken on Stradivarius. If Capri wasn't so underwhelming on his comeback in the vintage crop, then I'd probably be all over him, but he was really flat then.
Yeah, he needs to sort of do it now, doesn't he?
Got a lot to. Well, you can forgive any horse one run, but it'd take a leap of faith to support this horse. Maybe there might be a change in thinking at Ballydore where they might think, hang on, let's step Kew Gardens up in trip and make him the cup horse.
Perhaps, yeah.
But Ispalini would be the way I'm looking to take on the Fav here.